It's very rare that I hear anyone even talk about this, but there are three things that pretty much completely control your life beneath the surface, and you're probably not even aware of it. So if you've been stuck in cycles of self-sabotage or just feeling unable to break through, then I'd be willing to bet a whole lot of money that it's probably one of these three things that I'll talk about in this video. So the first thing is the mind momentum, or the negative mind momentum that you've built up throughout your life. So the reason you're probably not even aware of this is because it's happening below the surface of your conscious awareness, where if you've noticed by now, there's always this little voice talking in your head, and it's saying all kinds of things all day long. The thing is that the more attention and belief you give this little voice in your head, the more momentum it builds. So there's one thing that I commonly say and think about, and it's that you aren't this mind. You're not this little voice in your head. You are the observer of this voice. So this awareness that you are, it actually has the power to either give attention to this mind or withdraw attention from the mind. So for example, let's say my mind comes up and says, oh my God, dude, you better be careful. You're going to get an incurable disease. I don't know. It comes up, it says something super negative, super scary. In that moment, what a lot of people will do is they'll try to argue with the thought. They'll try to tell the thought that it's not real. They'll try to banish the thought. They'll try to make it go away. Or they'll just follow the thought and start thinking about it like, oh, what if I do? And then that thought takes them down a train of other thoughts. The thing is that when you are feeding negative thinking all day long, and more practically about your life and about your success, then that momentum builds over time and it becomes a big, powerful force in your life. So let's say I have constant thoughts of maybe I'm not worthy to be posting videos on YouTube, and I don't have these thoughts, but what if I did, and the thoughts were coming up and saying, why would anyone listen to what you have to say? Let's just say that, for example. I can either see this voice or these thoughts as just noise, as just mental noise that I don't need to pay attention to and I can just disregard. Or what happens to most people, they latch on to the thinking. They start following it around, and this attention, this energy that you're giving your mind, it builds momentum. So I'm almost sure that someone's told you before in your life, just think positive, bro. Just have positive thoughts and you'll be super duper successful. Everything will be great. The problem is you're not accounting for the years of negative mental momentum that is built up from you blindly being lost in and feeding your own mind. And so when you start to get into work like the law of attraction or getting what you want in life, and someone tells you you've got to change your mindset, think positive, you still have this backlog of negative momentum, and it is kind of like a rushing river. It's just blasting on through. And in that moment, unless you have a really good stability in your awareness, then you get dragged into it. So, if you're dealing with this problem, you can think positive all you want, but you're not helping to weaken the already built negative neural pathways. And that's what this negative thinking has become. In more scientific terms, it is basically just neural pathways that have built up in your head and roads and grooves that your mind habitually follows. And you have become so used to following these thoughts, so used to engaging with them and giving them your belief and attention, that they feel like who you are. They feel like just how life is. And so when thought feels like you, it's extremely hard to question it. So this controls your life beneath the surface because your attention or your awareness is getting pulled into and dragged around by all these thoughts that don't help you or serve you in any way. So the beginning stages of dealing with this is simply just waking up to this mind and becoming aware of all the things it's telling you throughout the day. In the beginning, just as an active practice of observation, to notice, how many blind thoughts do I just randomly follow per day and give my energy and attention to? That's really the core of this, is that thoughts only have as much power as you give them. The awareness that you are, if you just don't give the mind any belief or any attention, then it really has nothing to go on. It survives based on the energy and attention that you give it and the identification with it. So by believing you are this voice in your head and taking the thoughts that it says seriously, your life begins to become controlled by this little voice in your head, rather than being controlled by you as the awareness. The second thing that pretty much completely controls your life without you even being aware of it is all the emotions that you have suppressed throughout your life. So most humans are holding or storing a large amount of painful emotions inside of their body. And that's because most people have never been taught how to actually deal with and release these emotions. The problem is that when you don't do any emotional clearing, these emotions build up and build up and build up over time like garbage in your kitchen. So what I mean is, imagine your kitchen and you just build up garbage over months or years and you never take out your garbage. It's going to be bad. It's going to be smelly. It's going to suck. There's going to be rats. It's going to be awful. Well, that is what we are doing with our own emotions and our own body, is over time, we are just pushing emotions down into the body, building up garbage inside of our inner sanctuary, and not dealing with any of it, never taking the garbage out. And the reason this controls your life beneath the surface is because these emotions become anchors that keep you rooted in a very low state. And until you deal with the actual problem itself, which is this suppressed emotion, it just stays down there, kind of running your life beneath the surface. Now, of course, this isn't very fun to hear, because if you have been suppressing emotions, then that means there's a certain amount of emotional pain that you have stored in your body. But it's a very necessary thing to heal, or to hear. Because until you understand this, you'll just continue to push more emotions down and not actually begin to deal with the ones you already have down there. And really, it just gets worse and worse. This is why some people can have, complete mentee bees, meltdowns later on in life over something stupid like, getting stuck at a red light or something, and they'll be like, it's terrible. But it's because they've been suppressing and holding on to all their emotions their entire life, and then it just boils over and they have a complete meltdown in public, right? Then you end up on YouTube on some guy's channel making fun of you. It's bad. So you want to deal with these negative suppressed emotions, and you do this by doing the complete opposite of what you did to put them down there in the first place. So what you were originally doing is you were saying, this emotion's painful, I don't like it, I don't want it here, and therefore I'm going to try to escape it, distract from it, suppress it, and in any way you can, whether it be through a distraction, escape, or just pushing it away, you try to get the feeling to go away, and so you push it away. How you start to reverse the process is you start to become allowing of the feelings. So when a painful emotion comes to the surface, instead of being like, oh my God, here it is again, this painful feeling, I hate this, I want this to go away, you turn towards it and you welcome it like you would a friend. And by welcome it, I just mean you stay completely open to it. You do nothing to try to suppress it or push it away fix it or change it. Because that's the state most humans are stuck in, is they're stuck in this constant need to control and fix the way life is showing up. When a bad emotion comes, they're like, I hate this, I need to fix this, what do I do about this? Well, what I'm suggesting is that you do nothing about it. You completely allow what is there to just be there. And what happens when you do this is these feelings start to come to the surface and they start to process. The actual physiological process of the emotion completes in the body, and then it's not stuck inside anymore. The problem is, the caveat of all this, it all sounds nice and dandy, but depending on how long you've been pushing this stuff down, there's going to be a certain storage of these emotions down there. So when you really start to open up to this process of healing your painful emotions, you're going to start getting hit with a lot of, painful stuff that you didn't want to address in the past. The thing is that it is far more painful to hold on to these emotions for the rest of your entire life and never deal with it and forget about what I'm saying than to just go through that temporary process that it takes to really let these emotions come up and be felt fully. And for me, this took, a couple years, if I'm honest, for me to work through all these emotions. And that's because not only did I not have someone directly telling me, how to do it properly, but at the same time, I had been suppressing emotions my entire life. So I had a very, very large storage of emotions pushed down inside of me. And so, of course, it's only natural that it takes time for those to come up and be felt and worked through. And this leads me into the third thing that completely controls your life beneath the surface. And I already touched on it a little bit, but it is resistance. Resistance to what is here now in the moment. The thing is that anything you try to change or fix, you're actually only amplifying it and making it worse in your experience. The reason for this is because of the first thing we talked about, how whatever you give your attention to grows. So for example, let's say you have a problem like a really bad habit that you want to get rid of, or an addiction of some sort, and you say, oh man, I need this to go away. This is bad. I need it gone. And then you go into your mind and you're like, I got to fix this. I got to change this. I got to do something about this. What ends up happening in that moment is that all of your attention, all of your life force is focused on the fact that you have this problem. So instead of being open to solutions, you're simply focused on the fact that, okay, I have this bad issue. I need to overcome it. This is currently who I am. And that is really the core of what I'm saying, is that when you are resisting something, when you're making a problem in your experience, you're giving it reality. You're saying this is so real and so important and so part of a problem of who I am deep down that I got to do something about this. I got to fix this. And so one of the deepest teachings that I've held, or that I've been living by, is to allow everything to be as it is. And this really changes the way that you interact with life. Because instead of seeing everything as a make-work project, as something that you need to fix or change, you start allowing things, even unwanted things, like your mind, your negative mind momentum, your emotions, to be as they are, within a space of open awareness. And this, what I'm suggesting, is completely unnatural for humans and for the ego. Because we've been told by pretty much everyone in our culture, if you don't like something, then try hard to fix it, do something about it, change it. And what this is doing is adding resistance to the equation. And what you resist does not only persist, but it amplifies. It actually makes it worse. So when you let go of the resistance to what is, you start to step back outside of the mind, outside of the emotions, and just see them for what they are, which is internal processes happening in the body that you can completely allow to be as they are. Another way to say, allow everything to be as it is to just do nothing about it. If something unwanted is arising, don't do anything about it. Just let it be. When you're in the state of just relaxing and doing nothing, you start to understand what the flow state really means. And you begin to sink back into this awareness that you really are. And there's a certain amount of clarity that comes with that, a certain amount of openness where problems that may have been bothering you for a long amount of time, they start to become clearer. So if you are resisting your experience, which is something very normal that most humans do, then it's probably happening beneath the surface and you're not even noticing it or aware of it. And it is controlling your entire life because that has a huge effect on what you experience. Anyways, I hope this helped.